USA Women's Gymnastics Sexual Assault Scandal by Christina. The goal of the Olympic movement is to contribute to building a peaceful and better world by educating youth through sport practiced without discrimination of any kind, in a spirit of friendship, solidarity, and fair playing. That goes for the staff involved within the Olympics as well. There have always been issues before, during, and after of the Olympic Games, but most recently is the issue regarding the USA Women's Gymnastics team. In recent light, the Women's USA Gymnastics team experienced assault among young athletes in the organization by one of the respected doctors, Larry Nassar. Nassar is being accused of sexual misconduct and assault by over hundreds of athletes whom he has treated and cared for throughout his years working with the USA Women's Gymnastics team. The study provides information on the accusations from the USA gymnasts as well as the organization's stand on the matter of the impact for the future. Larry Nassar, doctor for the athletes of the Women's Olympic Gymnastics team, was a beloved doctor from the time he worked at Michigan State University until his honorable hiring for the Olympic team in 1986 on medical staff as an athletic trainer. Nassar is soon appointed National Medical Coordinator for USA Gymnastics in 1996 and attended the Olympic Games in Atlanta with the team. The allegations against Nassar date back to 1992 when he was still in medical school, but there is no evidence USA Gymnastics had access to this information when they hired Nassar. He retired from his role with USA Gymnastics in 2015 when the organization became aware of the athlete concerns about him. USA Gymnastics failed to report Nassar to authorities until 5 weeks after becoming aware of the allegations against him in 2015. Nassar is currently under trial for the accusations of sexually assaulting hundreds of young athletes at their appointments with him. Dr. Nassar's accusers include elite athletes, most famously Olympic medalists Simone Biles, Aly Raisman, Michaela Maroney, and Gabby Douglas. For someone to work so closely with this organization that is supposed to be helping and nurturing this country and its athletes, this is not the man we want representing the country. USA Gymnastics adopted a series of reforms in June that it said it would better prevent and respond to future cases of abuse. All members are now required to report sexual misconduct, and adults kicked out of clubs will be tracked in a database to prevent future abuse. Larry Nassar was convicted of sexual assault, child molestation, and child pornography possession in late January and early February. Despite being the perpetrator behind the heinous crimes, Dr. Larry Nassar plays no role in the conflict between his victims and USA Gymnastics. Many of Nassar's victims believe that the doctor's antics were perpetrated by the negligence on the part of the USA Gymnastics organization. The doctor's sexual misconduct has cost the organization 5 of its biggest sponsors, including Protect and Gamble and Kellogg's. Both companies withdrew their support from the organization due to the lack of the organization's agency in taking responsibility for the crimes of their team doctor. It can become bleaker when the victims of a sexual assault crime are children. People carry a lot of trauma from the childhood already. Adding something as violent as rape to the developing psyche of a child can be devastating. Nassar's sexual assault victims have a right to compensate for their suffering. The money will never take away their pain or trauma. Only time can heal that wound, but suing that institution and the organization that turned a blind eye to the suffering is perfectly reasonable and is the best way to ensure something like this does not happen again. There has to be consequences for compliance in this monstrous sexual assaults. Justice is owed to these people. The money they can get from the lawsuits can be used to improve their lives. Multiple girls complaining about single employees is very suspicious. One would think that USA Gymnastics organization would look into the complaints to ensure that nothing suspicious was going on under their noses. The fallout from this case has sought to damage the reputation of the United States of America Gymnastics organization. Complacency can just be as bad as committing the crime itself. USA Gymnastics is in the wrong for this argument. Their claim to innocence by simply being ignorant falls flat. The framework of this case study mainly uses the situational crisis communication theory. This framework of the situation was intended to correct any type of reputation disruptor, that being Larry Nassar, and the ability to regain or keep the trust of the stakeholders. Because the organization of the United States Olympic team itself is so widely popular and has been for hundreds of years, it is difficult to fully lose the interest of stakeholders, although the main issue would be that of the hiring process of the staff onto the team. Most of the information stakeholders collect about organizations is derived from the news media. That is why media coverage is important for reputation management. The news media, as well as the internet and social media, have released much of the story and have gave the public and the athletes the ability to see the results of the speculations and how they are being handled. The athletes have used social media to their advantage and provided their own thoughts and words to express to the public. An example of this is in November 2017 when Aly Raisman, a gold medalist for the USA Gymnastics team, posted to her Twitter account with the #MeToo movement, revealing that she was one of hundreds of women and girls who have been sexually harassed and abused by former USA Gymnastics team physician Larry Nassar. Through the situational crisis communication theory, the reputation of USA Gymnastics is up in the air. The organization is so widely popular and is a representation of our country, therefore much will be done in the future to prevent this type of issue from arising again. It may ruin part of the reputation of the hiring process, but that can be recovered by providing adequate hiring processes and reevaluating all staff on the teams. This case study followed the accusations and the reputation of the United States Gymnastics team and the issue of sexual assault by physician Larry Nassar. The research that was conducted proved that Nassar had sexually assaulted hundreds of women, all starting from his first victim in 1988, when he started medical school at Michigan State University. He went on to become a physician for the athletes of the USA Women's Olympic Gymnastics team, where he took advantage of those victims in early 1990s, and the strong accusations of athletes in 2017. This study allowed for the use of CCT in the analyzing of the stakeholders' responses that arose within the issue at hand. The public received the information through social media and news outlets, in which the organization, as well as the victims, participated in. Although the case study is still open and sentencing has been given, more and more testimonies are being brought out. As for the reputation of the USA Women's Gymnastics team, their long history of honorable talent will never be ruined. The hiring of doctors and coaches should be evaluated and monitored to prevent issues like this from ever coming forth.